From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper, and it is time for the premier sports betting show. And boy, oh boy, this is the Primetime Angles Live. And if it's one of your favorite shows, man, make sure you tell a friend so we can keep this thing, going. And we're doing pretty good, though, on the YouTube views and everything like that. We had a monster month last month. We shattered a lot of little records and milestones and things like that. But we got to keep this thing pushing and keep this thing rising. So when we get to our next show, NFL Bet Exchange, we are in the right position because that's going to be a epic show, just like it was last year. But we're going to do a lot of new things with that show as well, too. So last night, great start for the Phoenix Suns. They were able to take game one, full team effort led by CP3. But as Coach Pop said, we had to have the X factor step it up. Mikal Bridges was huge in that game last night. And I would say that all in all, I know that Chris Paul and Devin Booker scored more points, but I would say the MVP of the game would be DeAndre Ayton. The guy scored 22 points, gets 16 rebounds. He shows exactly the importance of what the big man is supposed to do and what I've been trying to explain to people for the last decade or so since we got into this whole shooting revolution of things. And you guys have to understand, a lot of the NBA teams are very bad at what they do. There's only really like 10 really good teams in the league because they've adopted this strategy. But Phoenix is able to do what they do because Chris Paul, one thing I do respect about Chris Paul is Chris Paul knows how to use a big man. He's been doing that all the way back since he was at Wake Forest. And he turned even a guy who's maybe a C- big man if you get to the NBA or anything like that. He never made the league, but the guy he was teamed with was an absolute stellar player because he had Chris Paul with him. And Chris Paul knows how to make big men be big men. And that's one thing that I do respect about Chris Paul. And I think Chris Paul will wind up being a pretty great NBA coach when it's all said and done as well, too, if he chooses that route. But the thing is, though, they needed that because Booker didn't hit any threes last night. He hit 1 3 last night. And that could have, if you don't get a great effort from Ayton, they don't win the game last night. Period, point blank. Ayton made it to where it was a one-stop shop on many possessions for the Bucks as well, too. And he kept other possessions alive for the Suns as well, too. So, I know ESPN isn't going to give him all his props because he's not as pretty as a Booker and a CP3, but I feel like he was the key to the victory last night. And if I'm the coach, he gets the game ball for the night as well, too, because that was absolutely incredible. And then Mikal Bridges does what Mikal Bridges does. He plays great defense. He's able to hit the big shot, and he's able to get to the rim when nobody's expected it, and he makes things happen. But I'm going to also go ahead and throw out another player last night who pretty much broke the game wide open when he hit 2 threes in a row, and that was Cam Johnson. I know he didn't do much after that, but when he hit those threes, the game was kind of deadlocked at that moment, and he made sure to put his team ahead, and then the momentum started rising for the Suns, and then Chris Paul played off of that. Devin got a little bit of that, and pretty much Ayton couldn't be stopped 4 feet and in last night, going 80% last night in the field goal category. So that's where the Suns won the game at. The Bucks lost the game last night, in my opinion, because they overplayed Giannis. They should have played Giannis in spots last night, in spots that were good for him to play in. They had him literally playing like one of his usual games, and he started to tire out a little bit too quickly for my liking. And I think that they put him in positions that he just really wasn't ready for in a big game like this. So I felt like they should have kind of spotted his minutes a little bit, played Bobby Portis a little bit more, who didn't do that, who did okay last night, but with more minutes, I think he would have played much, better than he did last night. I think that this game one was a good way for the Bucks to make adjustments. As everybody should know, the Bucks have lost the last three game ones in a row. The Suns have not lost a game one at all in this playoff. So that's why you got to kind of tell yourself, yeah, there's a reason why Phoenix was able to do what they did because they got the crowd involved. They got excited. They played off the crowd, and they made a big push at the right times as well too. And I know they felt like the Bucks were coming back somewhat in the game, but they were never really in that game last night. So pretty much to me, I think that everything, when it's all said and done, this was just game one. The adjustments will be made for game two. That's the game that you always have to really kind of key in on in the NBA Finals is game two. If the team makes the right adjustments in game two, then we should have ourselves a series. But with the way this playoff is working right now is even if you go down 0-2 and you get to go home for the rest of you get to go home for two more games, you got an opportunity to go ahead and tie up the series. So I think that all in all, at the end of the day, this is going to wind up being a very, very, very good series. All in all, I know a lot of people feel like this one might be a series that might be one-sided, but that's just because you have a big crush on Chris Paul, and that's okay. So literally, this one, we'll be back Thursday. We'll be back talking more about this tomorrow. I know the line will favor the Suns as well, too, but it will not be as big as it was in the last game. And I know that the Suns are getting more comfortable. A lot of the odds makers are starting to make them the favorite for the championship, but that's just but bettors, you have to be smart about this thing. That's just a way to entice you to throw more money on the Suns because they're not getting as much on that other side. So pretty much now you have to kind of overvalue the Suns in this, and I don't think that you should overvalue a team that doesn't have one player that's ever won an NBA championship on that team as well, too. So, just be smart about what you're doing here because they will try to trick you into doing these things. You know what I mean? So pretty much be cool and, just move from there. All right, let's get into our NFL preview. As you guys can see, we got the Carolina Panthers who were 5-11 last season. And you know what? The Panthers at one point in the season, they were making a little bit of a move. They were, I think, 5-4 at one point, and they wound up dropping the last 7 games. Or actually, they had won 3 games in a row after dropping the first 2. And then after that, the team wound up going 2-9. I know I followed them very closely because I have a list for odds and different angles and things like that for every team in the NFL. I do have a chart in place that I actually personally do myself. And it was crazy to see that Carolina was a good team when it came to covering games, but they were a bad team when it came to winning games last year. And I know that, not having McCaffrey was huge last year, but you had to expect that this was going to happen because the running back position always seems to have a top flight running back nowadays in the NFL out for at least one season or not has an off season because of injuries or something of that nature, as we lost Saquon Barkley last year as well too. So, when you look at it, Christian McCaffrey is going to return and he should have a great impact on this team. But my biggest concern and my big thing here is the resurgence of Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has finally gotten out of New York, which was a toxic situation for him. He's a good guy, and I think that they should have been able to work that thing out. But the impatience of the Jets showed. He was traded to Carolina for some picks and things of that nature, and I think that he's going to be able to recreate the greatness that he made over at USC in Carolina as well, too, because Carolina is a really good city to be involved with when you're playing football, and especially at the quarterback position. And they revived some careers in Carolina as well too. Kerry Collins was kind of, you didn't know what you was going to get with him. He was one of their first quarterbacks. And then Jake Delhomme had a great time there as well too. So you can't just go off the fact and say that, okay, these guys might be there, they might not be there. They're going to be a little dangerous because they're going to be overlooked. And I know that they'll be big time overlooked as well too, because, everybody expects this division just to fall right into the lap of Tom Brady and the Bucks. And then you got the Saints, but the Saints don't have Drew Brees anymore. So that's going to be game plan that's going to get them through. And then you have the Atlanta Falcons, who are kind of a hit or miss team, but they should be able to step it up, to be honest with you, this year. I think that they have all the weapons to put them in place, but they're going to have some adjustments made because now they have a rookie replacing an all-world player in Julio Jones. So Atlanta might still be – it all depends on what Matt Ryan's going to do, in my opinion, and what that defense can do as well too. But Carolina is the team that you're looking at. They have a young coach. They're on the up and up when it comes to putting teams together. They did get themselves the right pick. It wasn't a flashy pick in the draft, but still, this team is building the pieces. And usually when I see a team draft a lineman or something like that, a cord in the first 10 picks, they usually do pretty good the next season because they're investing in the internal things that make teams go and make teams really good as well too. So pretty much with that, hopefully we'll get Mike in. He's supposed to be coming in. He hasn't checked in yet, but we'll be having Mike Abadir coming in to talk baseball with us in a moment. And you guys, though, before that, you guys check out hatclub.com. Man, absolutely incredible hats and everything like that with this company. You guys can go ahead and check them out at www.hatclub.com. You guys can also get a 10% discount on the link that's in the show description as well, too. So you guys go ahead and get into that, man. www.hatclub.com. It's an absolute gem of a steal. You guys get a 10% discount on any order that's $50 or better. So we will be back with the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles Live, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Cappers.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune into Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
The Viget app, where social media meets sports betting. Get the latest line movements in all major sports. Track your daily bets, daily contests, the NFL over-under contest that pays out $10K in cash prizes. This is a cutting-edge app that helps betting be easy. Sign up with the reference code POPDBIC and you will be able to watch my daily show, The Primetime Angles, as a resource to building that bankroll. Viget is available in your Apple or Google Store on your iOS or Android. The social sports betting app, Viget.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
All right, we are back. Mike is coming in just a moment. We'll be bringing him in for the baseball to talk baseball and talk the pick six and everything tonight. But the Dodgers last night had a folly type of situation last night that occurred with them not winning last night. Seriously, it was an absolute just terrible situation that occurred at the end. But it's okay though. It's a learnable situation. But this is why I call Will Smith Rube Baker. If anybody remembers Major League 2, Rube Baker was the catcher that replaced that replaced the other catcher. I'm trying to think of his name right now in the movie, but the guy who became the manager. He got replaced by Rube Baker. He was supposed to be showing Rube Baker around and things like that. And pretty much that's what Will looked like last night in that situation. And my man let him have it last night after the broadcast to Bobby Jr. So pretty much he was really pissed off about the way that situation worked. Let's go bring in Mike Abadir to talk about that a little bit with us. And Mike's over here with his Stone Cold. Look, I saw he was drinking on his Diet Coke. I thought he was going to slap them together real quick. And, I guess that good Phoenix bet covered last night, the 5.5 for you.
I'm trying to get this camera centered here.
I got you, Mike. We got to get you a tripod, man, so everything can be right.
Exactly. So, man, like the beauty of live radio and television is it's authentic. It is as authentic as it gets right now because I made the mistake of volunteering to allow to watch 2 other dogs to play with my 2 dogs.
Wow.
So there's 4 over here. Well, the new one, he's in uncharted waters and he shot all over the place. Okay. Right. So then one of the other ones like, oh, this is a new smell. This is kind of cool. Let me go in and step in it and then track it all over the place. Okay. Right. So that sent me back this morning.
Right.
Okay. And it delayed my whole day. Well, right as about to log in to have my enjoyable hour of the day with Pop DiBiase, it happened again.
Man.
Paw prints that are brown all over my hardwoods.
Well, at least it's hardwood. Because if it was carpet, it would be one of those.
True.
It would be one of those commercials. How do we get this out of here?
Well, that's why I had that look on my face, like angry. I want to kill something. Don't worry, guys. I love dogs. I've never hurt a dog.
Yeah, we don't want Mike. Don't stunner the dog in a bit, because third time the dog might have to get stunnered.
No kidding, Dan. So, by the way, you were talking about the movie Major League.
Yeah, and
great movies, man. 1 and 2, and I don't remember 3, but there's the first 2 are
the first 2 are the only ones that matter.
Willie Mays Hayes.
Yeah, the third one wasn't. I don't even think the third one made it to theaters, dude.
No, I don't think so either. Willie Mays Hayes, right? He runs like Mays, hits like Hayes.
Willie Mays Hayes was the Dodgers need a guy like Willie Mays Hayes, con himself onto the team, and then find out that the guy can run a little bit, but he can't hit. But you know what? Be a great pitch runner and everything like that. I love number 1 when Wesley Snipes pulled up as Willie Mays Hayes, and they really had this idea that he was on the team. And then years later, it wasn't baseball, it was football. The Browns had a guy like that as well, too. He played only preseason, but the guy was out there moonlighting, like, oh, I know a coach. Oh, I know a coach. Oh, I know a coach. And then he was literally wound up being on the preseason roster after everything was all said and done. The most beautiful part about his journey, though, was he ran back, I think, 102-yard kickoff return, like maybe one of the final preseason games of the year, and he was wearing Odell Beckham's cleats. The Odell, he didn't even have, professional cleats. Odell went and got him hooked him up with some cleats and everything like that. But it was a great story. I can't remember his name right now. The Browns cut him, because they didn't have any spot for him. But still, that was a great story. Guy sneaks into camp and literally, kind of becomes a motivational piece. And the Browns have actually been a better team since. So, when you got somebody working that hard to be on a roster that wasn't that good at the time, that makes you want to play a little bit better because he could have took your spot.
Man, and I'll tell you, man, the line between who makes the roster and who doesn't is very indistinguishable.
Right.
And sometimes it's just a matter of, I don't know what position he played, but kick returner, special teams, whatever. It might be just a situation that they were like thin on offensive linemen. So they had to carry an extra one or two, which means we have to cut something because there's roster limits. Right. And that's the crazy thing about football. You don't have a minor league system to send them down and keep them on your roster. You cut them, you let them loose, and that's it. They're gone, never to be heard of again, unfortunately.
Right. And some guys, though, that's why, you got good that's why you got good scouting departments, guys that might have missed on an undrafted free agent. They see him ball in preseason. Then next thing you know, they get him on the taxi squad, because that might be just as important as having your actual team in place is the taxi squad. And so those guys who stand out, they really want to make sure that they get those guys back. But if they can get themselves a regular contract and get on the roster of 53, then it's on. I've seen it happen plenty of times. They had a guy play for UCLA one year. He was with the Browns, and he wound up getting cut at the last minute because, like you just said, Mike, they had to fill another position. Man, he got picked up in about 5 minutes by the Jets. You know what I mean? It was on their regular roster because they needed a safety. So it works out, man, and that's just being fortunate. But you are so right, Mike. The NFL is a tough.
Well, keep in mind something. One of the best running backs in history is Priest Holmes. Priest Holmes, he was a casualty of being cut.
Right.
This is one of the best in history. And how about James Harrison?
Yep, I was just about to mention
defensive MVP. Yeah, this guy was cut 3 times before he finally stuck with Pittsburgh.
Right.
And how about Kurt Warner? Right? He tried and couldn't get a job. It's funny thing is that there was a wide receiver in the league, very close friend of mine, Kenny Shedd, with the Raiders, number 84 years back, right around the time of James Jett and Tim Brown and all those guys. And Kenny Shedd was his receiver at Northern Iowa. And he told me, I don't know how this guy ain't in the league. He passes better than any starting quarterback in the league. People laughed at him. Kenny, man, what are you smoking? How is that even possible? The guy is like in the Arena League. Can't even get to the NFL as a clipboard holder.
Right.
Scouting departments miss a lot. They miss more in the NFL than any other sport.
Right. And
that's why you see so many first-round failures. That's why you see so many first-round busts.
Right. And somebody, that's and the thing is, you see other teams in the league that could have been blessed, but it was the right time. It was perfect timing because St. Louis was still new. The Rams were still new to St. Louis, and then you got a coach in Dick Vermeil that's gonna let the best players play. That's the one thing about Dick. He wasn't committed to any player like that, even though Green was a big signing. It was still going to be a situation where you would have had to put Warner in during the season. And
but imagine if Green hadn't torn his ACL.
Right. Well,
that would have been. Who knows what would have happened?
I think Warner still stays the backup at that point, though.
I think so too.
He had the backup job already sold up at that point.
Probably because they tied so much money in.
Right.
By the way, are you watching the Euros right now?
No, I'm watching. I'm watching you.
Well, I'm watching everything. I got the screens all up here. Denmark just scored on England. It is 1-0. They have a song. It's kind of like a national anthem in England. Mm-hmm. It's about their heartache. It's kind of like the Chicago Cubs before they won it, or the Red Sox before they won it.
Right.
There's a song, kind of like here we have, root for your home team. They have one of those for England being a perennial loser. So right now, like the royalty's all there. What's his name? Queen Elizabeth's grandkids are there. All that kind of stuff. I don't know if that reality chick is there or not. What's her name?
What, the wife?
Yeah.
I don't think she would be there. She got other things to do.
Oh, she denounced it, right? Her and Harry denounced it.
They got to buy their own ticket.
That's why they're not in the cheering section with the. That's why they're not with the VIPs, I guess. Right, so Denmark 1, England 0. This is for the kind of like the conference finals. This is who gets to the championship.
Right, but is anybody going to beat Italy? That's the question. That's my question. I think Italy got it, man, to be honest with you. But Dodgers last night, that's what we have up right now, Blue Crew Daily. Dodgers had quite a loss last night because they could have won the game. You know, they had Gosselin pitched absolutely incredible last night. And pretty much what happens is that you have a situation where now the Dodgers kind of have to rethink this thing with Bauer because now things are starting to crumble, starting to make sense now, and the Dodgers are starting to kind of move back on him a little bit right now. So I'm guessing he'll be out for at least the next 30 days or so. So pretty much the Dodgers do need to think about maybe a starting pitcher if they are to maybe lose him for the year as well too. And I think that Gibson from the Rangers is the perfect candidate for the Dodgers as well. And I know the Dodgers are doing a lot of showing off in a sense. You know, you got to show your merchandise a little bit. There's a lot of guys coming up from Albuquerque right now and getting valuable playing time. And I think the Dodgers are trying to show these prospects off so they can start making some pretty good deals here at the end of July and August as well too. So I would like to see the Dodgers pursue Gibson from the Rangers. That would be a really, really good fit. If you put him in a winning environment, I think he'll be an even better pitcher. And then there's another name that comes to mind. I know it sounds crazy when I mention him, but I think that he will do very well with the Dodgers, either as a starter or as a long reliever. And that's Mike Minor from the Royals, who's a strikeout machine. He just has never gotten real run support playing in Kansas City, playing in Cincinnati, but he did get some run support when he did play for a winning team. I think it was the Giants for the A's. Yeah, he played for the A's for a while, and he got himself. And if he can get a guy like that, some run support, he'll be so much better than what he is right now with the Royals. The Royals are a middling team, and that's why the ERA doesn't look good on him. But I think that he could be a perfect fit for the Dodgers because he gets guys out. That's the whole thing. So that's what I'm looking at. And I think that the Dodgers, dropping 2 in a row isn't that big of a deal, but they were right there with the Giants. They could have taken advantage of this situation and been in first place already because the Giants lost the opener and the last game to the Cardinals as well too. They'll probably bounce back today, and then it makes Dodgers win, and then we're deadlocked again. So we'll see how it goes, see how it shakes out. Mike, what are your quick thoughts on the Dodgers game last night and what they should be doing moving forward?
I think Bauer's done for the year.
Most likely.
It doesn't look good because here's the thing, man. Unless this is a complete money grab, which it could be, his whole thing is that she likes it violent.
Right.
So he's not saying that they didn't do it, and he's not saying that it wasn't. He's not saying that it wasn't violent. He's saying it was. He's just saying that she consented to it. Now, I don't know if she did and changed her mind or if she didn't at all. Something's fishy. Something's strange. And I think it's going to take a long time before the facts come out. I think it's going to take longer than these next 3 months to be able to figure it out. The Dodgers can't bring him in during that time period. So he's done for the year. So the question, though, is this, Pop. Before the year started, if I would have asked you as a big Dodger fan and a Dodger expert, if I would have asked you, is Trevor Bauer needed or is he icing on the cake? What would you have said before the season?
But to me, the whole time, Bauer's been a luxury. That was a luxury sign for the Dodgers. That was just to add some insurance. That's it.
But right now, it seems like there's a problem.
Right. But the thing from what I'm hearing right now is the Pasadena Police Department is working pretty quickly on this situation, and Bauer does have something to back him up in a sense where there's text messages that have been exchanged that show that she agreed upon some things. And, pretty much, Mike, you already said it off top. It's going to be a money grab because I know what will probably happen in the situation, the case will probably get dropped by the Pasadena Police Department, and then that's when the lawyer come out with the civil suit. Because
that's why I started off saying it very well could be a money grab.
Yeah, it's gonna be a money grab. That's all what it really comes down to. And pretty much the whole situation is in itself was supposed to be discreet. So she already kind of broke it might not have been a contract on paper, but the physical contract, you know what I mean? The agreements. And if he has all that information in his phone, then she's not probably gonna have a case. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing though, Pop. What they're going to probably do is talk to any of his ex-girlfriends and ask if he had done anything like this with them before. Right now, let's just say
had a lot of girlfriends though. He's kind of weird.
Yeah, he is a little bit of an oddball, but
right.
or even just friends with benefits or whatever. They're probably going to talk to 4 or 5 of them if they're willing to talk and see, is this part of his fabric or not? Because here's what I'll tell you, man. Look, different strokes for different folks. We're all different. We all have different likes and dislikes and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But, in our player days back in the day, right, I could at least speak for myself. If somebody had asked me to get violent with them, I couldn't. Like, I just can't do that. Looks like I'm frozen, but I'm. Can you see me?
I can see you, but we can hear you. We can see you, but you're not moving though.
It's frozen.
Yeah.
In an awkward position too, but.
Yeah.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't have it in me to beat the heck out of somebody during intimacy. It just doesn't make any sense, or choke, or any of that kind of stuff, man. So. I don't know if you want to take a commercial break here, leave it at this sensitive, touchy subject, or what you want to do here, but that's my take on it, Pop.
All right, well, that's what we'll do. We'll let you get right back into this thing real quick. We're going to take a real quick break, and then when we get back, we're going to get into some baseball. We're going to lead the politics for ESPN and all those good shows that have massive sponsors. So, pretty much, you guys stay tuned. This is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles. We'll be right back in about 2 minutes.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, we are back, and let's go ahead and jump into it. We have ourselves some pretty good baseball games today as well, too, Mike. So
and we have a tie game, England and Denmark. Man, England's got some pretty good brothers on the team.
Yeah, man.
That Raheem Sterling or whatever, he just put in a beautiful goal to tie this thing up, man.
Well, they over there, it's so funny because they never want to highlight the African teams, but they have some of the biggest talent in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Teams. You know what I mean? And
for sure.
And I remember one year, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Angola or somebody who was about maybe the one before the last one. They were awesome. And I think that's the ones that beat the Americans. And they were like, oh, my God, they beat the Americans.
It was Cameroon, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Cameroon, who was very, very good. And, Nigeria is always going to have some type of stake in everything because they move it. They're going to always be the favorite as well, too.
Yep.
Morocco used to be really good as well, too.
One of the best players in the world right now, Mo Salah, is from Egypt.
Yep.
He plays on Liverpool in the Premier League.
And if Egypt in it, Egypt, I don't know if they're going to be in it, but quite possibly they already will be in it. But it's crazy though, man, to see how their fans react to those games as well too. But pretty much let's get into this Orioles and this Blue Jays situation here. We got the Blue Jays coming in here minus 200. Orioles are plus 170. Blue Jays are coming off of a loss as well too, Mike. What are your thoughts on this game?
Vlad. Blue Jays are really a fun team to watch, man. They don't really have a true home field advantage this year, so being on the road isn't a big deal. In fact, they're better on the road than at wherever the heck they play, Buffalo or Florida or whatever. They got Ryu going, somebody you're very familiar with. And we already talked about how Batman ain't Batman anymore. So Matt Harvey's ERA is going to stay in the 7s all year. This is an opportunity for the Blue Jays to try to put some separation between them and the Yankees, because the Yankees have now won 2 in a row. The Blue Jays have lost 2 in a row. And they're both quickly fading in the rearview mirror of Boston and Tampa. So this is kind of a must-win series going into the All-Star break here for the Blue Jays. I think they come through. I think Ryu will show that he is the one of the better pitchers in the American League still, and they're going to get to Harvey. So I am expecting there to be a decent amount of runs scored to even challenge that 10.5. I go Blue Jays and over, Pop.
And I'm looking at the over as well too. I know that the Blue Jays lost their last 3 out of 5, but it's okay because the Orioles lost their last 3 out of 5 as well too. So pretty much this makes this to where it's going to be a pretty bettable game, in my opinion, when it comes down to the over and things of that nature. And then picking a side, that you'll have people like me who will be like plus 170. I'm not taking that minus 200. I'll go ahead and take the Orioles today. So I would say that the money will come in late on the Orioles, and the early money is all over the Jays in this spot.
Look, I'm going to tell you something. When I make my selections, just so that people out there know kind of my methodology, I first don't look at the lines.
Right.
Like it's the same thing even with like horses. I don't look at the morning lines. I don't want to be influenced. Right. And then like in horses, that is. And then like it's something like this, I don't look at it and I'm like, okay, who's going to win the game? And if so, how is it like a 5-star must win, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star, right? And if it's going to be a 5-star, then I'm expecting it to be above minus 180. Sometimes you're like, man, I'm getting a plus, and that's even better. Sometimes you got the heavy minus, and then you have to ask yourself, is it worth playing or not? Right. So I think the Blue Jays are going to win. I think they're going to go over. Is it worth the minus 200? I'd say it's kind of at the outer limits of my tolerance, but I would include in a 16 parlay pop style. If I needed one more team, I would use the Blue Jays minus 200.
Right. And I think, and that's to me, it's a strong play today. And, I'm just saying, though, the last few times the Orioles have been a big dog. They did sweep the Astros last week as well, too. But that was on the road. And they don't seem to be they're not that good of a team at home. So this does work out pretty well for the Blue Jays. And this has to be a bounce back game for Ryu as well, too, who struggled in his last few games as well. But it's okay because a lot of people didn't want to say that the Mariners going into that series had won about 11 out of their last 15 games. Even though they did lose the series last week, they did win that game against Ryu, which was an early start. This is a little bit later. He's had the week off and to rethink some things, and I think that he'll be absolutely fine against this Orioles lineup tonight. So it should be a fun game. It's a divisional game, so it has some ramifications to it, and I'm with you. The Blue Jays just keep on trucking along, and I think that they can catch the Rays as well, too. The Rays, I love them, and they are the fun team, but they have this thing to them that makes me really kind of doubt that their playoff run this year, I feel like they're trying to get caught in a sense. You know what I mean? Because they'll have a week where they win 5 out of 7, then the next week they lose 5 out of 7. If the Blue Jays keep just a steady pace, and then they make themselves a nice little deal here at the end of the month, the Blue Jays should be in position to be in the playoffs.
Well, I tend to agree with you. It'll be very interesting. American League East is very fascinating.
Nobody's touching the stocks, though. We can just go ahead and say that now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, Pop. Obviously, there's a lot of season to go and a lot can happen. But I think one of the other interesting questions is this: the Yankees are staring dead smack at being 10 games back at the All-Star break. They're 9.5 out right now. What do? Do they mortgage their future and try to get another player or two to make a playoff run? Or do they deplete their minor league system on a lost cause, for a lost cause season? That's what's going to be very interesting to see what Brian Cashman does.
To me, Cashman, this time around, don't be in pain. If I was the Steinbretters, I would tell them right now, just run with what you got. Because at the end of the year, we're getting rid of all these guys. We'll play it out. We'll see what we can do. But end of the year, we know that we can get a lot more for these guys going in. We don't have to mortgage the future to finish third place. It's not the Yankees aren't making the playoffs, Mike. I'm gonna be dead honest with you. They don't have the pitching, and there's too many guys hurt right now, and if you're not gonna break up the Stanton Judge thing and just keep that going, then you're not gonna go anywhere. Because I know that they're two of the best power hitters in the league, but you know what? They're starting to remind me of the '90s version of the Rangers this year. The Rangers had a lot of power hitters too. Those guys could fill up a stat sheet and look real good doing it. But if you don't have the pitching and if you don't have the other intangibles that it takes, then you're going to just be playing baseball games this year, in my opinion.
That's a great point, and it's a great analogy. I'll give you one more real quick before we move on, Pop. I love the Red Sox formula, okay, where you have like a table setter that gets on base a lot, like a Pedroia, or right now, like a Verdugo. For a while there was Mookie Betts, guys that get on base a lot. And then you have like a JD Martinez, or back in the day, Big Papi or Manny, right? Bring them in. You can't have a lineup with 5 sluggers that aren't high on base guys.
Right.
You can't have Stanton and Judge and what's his name, Luke Voigt first, or whatever the hell his name is, on first base, and Gary Sanchez, the catcher. You can't have 5 like big time bashers in a row in a lineup. You have to have some table setters. Where's your Mookie Betts?
Right.
Where's your Dustin Pedroia, your Alex Verdugo, the guys that can get on base a lot to come in and score? The Red Sox are real fortunate right now because they've got a lot of table setters, but they also have 3 guys that can bash too. It's a perfect formula because they got Devers, who hits for very high average, JD Martinez, who hits very, very high average, and why am I blanking on his name? It'll come to me in a second here. That's part of the getting older thing, Pop. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, they've got table setters that can be brought in. Who is the Yankees table setter? I think that's a big question. If you don't have an answer, you're not getting into the playoffs, bottom line. Oh, Xander Bogaerts. That's who I was thinking. Yeah. So all 3 of those guys could be table setters if they wanted to, except for JD Martinez, not fast enough. But that's why the Red Sox are in first place, Pop. It's pretty simple.
Right. And, simply the Red Sox don't mind getting rid of stars that aren't producing. You know what I mean? Or getting rid of people that they know that they can't pay. Mookie Betts, they said off top they're not giving Mookie Betts $350 million because they don't want to play like the Yankees. You know what I mean? They don't want to be like the Yankees. And they sent him to the Dodgers, and what do they get? They get Verdugo out the deal. The Verdugo was one of the highest prospects in Dodger history. But that shows how great Mookie Betts is, that the Dodgers can move on from him as well, too, to bring in a Mookie Betts. So pretty much all in all, I think just my thing is the Yankees need to take a backseat approach in a sense. Maybe they might need to bring in a money ball type executive to show them the way on how to be back being the Yankees again. Like you just said, I've never seen a winning Yankee team without a great leadoff man, and the Yankees don't have that right now. Usually the leadoff man is probably one of the most popular people on the team, you know what I mean? Or the guy that bats second, you know, and the Yankees don't have any of that. It's just a big salary of guys. It's just a big salary room of guys that are half producing, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if you look at the table setters over the last 35 years, for the Yankees, either batting in the leadoff spot or in the 2-hole. I mean, you have Hall of Famers like Ricky Henderson and Derek Jeter, you know, Johnny Damon. I mean, these were all guys that were really, really good table setters, got on base a lot, had a little pop. They could be dangerous with a home run. They could be dangerous if they get on the base paths. But most importantly, they were high on base percentage guys. Brett Gardner filled that role for a little bit, but he's a bit older now. But yeah, the Yankees just don't have that, man. They just don't have that. So really quickly about the Mookie Betts thing, by the way, it's very rare that I feel a trade was truly a win-win for both teams. I think this one was, because I love Mookie Betts. He's been one of my favorite players in baseball for like 5-6 years now. But I do think that the Red Sox got the best years out of him. I think they got exactly what they wanted, what they needed. They got bang for their buck, and it was probably a good time to move on. From the Dodgers' perspective, I think they get 2, 3, 4 really good years out of him, and then you start seeing somebody like that decline a little bit, and I think that's still a win for the Dodgers. Even if he fulfills half of his contract with monstrous numbers, they got a World Series ring. So the rest is kind of gravy. So it's truly a win-win. And like you said, Verdugo, you know, he's not going to be an MVP contender ever, in my opinion, but he's going to be a solid all-star, hits for high average for a long time to come, and sprinkle in some home runs.
And you know what Mookie Betts brings to the table is the leadership. That's exactly what the Dodgers needed. They needed somebody who's been there, done that. And that's exactly what has happened with Mookie Betts hitting that Dodger dugout. And that's why they were able to win those series against the Braves and against the Rays, because they had Mookie Betts in there with the positivity, knowing that this ain't the last day. All we got to do is win this one game and we can move on from there. Shit, the Dodgers was even down in the World Series, and, you know, Mookie made it his whole night to make sure that they won that game that night. And those players are very rare in the league, and it's an absolute blessing for the Dodgers to have that guy, because he's a leader of men, and that's exactly what he's doing. And he'll be a great manager some 10 years down the road as well, too. So we'll see how it goes, man.
You remember he said the tempo, by the way, in spring training.
Yeah.
He brought everybody in on day number 1. I mean, he just grabbed it by the horns and took over.
Right.
You're exactly right. I mean, you can't have look, when you have a young team, you know, with Bellingers and Buellers and Will Smith and all these guys, you got to have somebody that's been there and done that and won it. Even the older guys like Justin Turner and stuff like that, they put up good numbers, but they had not been on a World Series champion. So yeah, he brought it all together, man. I know we got to move on here, but there's not enough accolades that I could give for Mookie Betts. But I do think that the Red Sox probably got 5 prime years out of him. And you know, as somebody that backs the Red Sox, I think I'm satisfied. And I was very disappointed that they moved him. But I think the trade is going to, when all is said and done, it's going to pan out for both teams pretty well.
Agreed. All right.
Hey, one quick note, Pop. I don't know if you were kind of alluding to this when you were talking about the Dodgers jerseys in Albuquerque and all that good stuff. But I'm reading here on the ticker, the Dodgers have pulled all of Trevor Bauer's jerseys from their stores, and they just canceled the bobblehead night featuring Trevor Bauer that was scheduled for August 19. I mean, that's like a month plus from now.
Right.
That's not a good sign, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's the backlash. When the backlash happens, that's when moves start happening. So But pretty much we move on, and we're gonna go ahead and get into this Phillies and Cubs game real quick because I did see that earlier as well too. And the Phillies coming in here as a nice favorite, and they looking to sweep the Cubs as well too this week. Cubs are a dog, and the Cubs have been bad, Mike. I think they've lost the last 10 in a row, and they lost last night 15-10, the night before 13-3. Something got to give at Wrigley right now. Something got to give on the north side, Mike. What are your thoughts on this game tonight?
Yeah, you're right. Losers of 11 in a row.
Wow.
Very weird team, man. Very weird team. Remember the beginning of the season, they were batting like 180 as a team, and they were terrible. They couldn't even put together any runs at all. Then all of a sudden, this guy Wisdom comes out of the blue and hits a bunch of home runs in a few days, and their offense gets on track, and they were on fire. They got to first place in their division, but now they find themselves in fourth place with their season spiraling out of control. And on the flip side, you have the Philadelphia Phillies, who seem to be kind of sort of getting their act together, I guess. Their problem is their bullpen. Their bullpen has been treacherous. Poor Joe Girardi, man. His hair turned white overnight. They can't even close out a game when they have a 2 or 3 run lead. If you look at how many blown saves they've got, they lead the league, and it's by a mile. They need a solution for that situation in a big hurry. But tonight, maybe Zach Wheeler can go deep into this game for them, and hopefully, not have to tax that bullpen too prematurely. I think the Phillies steal one on the road here. I think they take this one something in the range of 6-3. Maybe we're smelling a little 1.5.
All right. And from what I can see here, one thing that the Cubs do have in their favor is hitting a lot of home runs this year. So I think that maybe that could be a factor in tonight's game as well, too. Zach Wheeler's having probably his best season ever in the major leagues right now. So I tend to have to agree with you on this game right here, Mike, that this one will probably go in the favor of the Phillies. But when you've lost 11 in a row, it's difficult to really, really keep going in there and expecting to lose. I think that it's going to be a little bit more of a desperate effort by the Cubs tonight, and I really do like the fact that this one will be able to become a I think this one will wind up being a good win for the Cubs at Wrigley. I know that you like the Phillies tonight, but I think for some odd reason that they'll be able to get to Wheeler a little early tonight, and I think that they'll be able to pull out a victory. But we'll have to see, though. The team's
losing streak is over, according to Pop.
Tonight, it ends tonight.
It's over.
It ends, because the Cubs can't lose this much. If they lose tonight, I won't be taking them for the next month, to be honest with you. Let's move on to our next spot. It's going to be a good one. This is another divisional game. This is going to be the A's and the Astros. The A's coming into this game plus 125, Astros minus 150. Astros have had their way with the A's this year, Mike. This is like really like it's starting to get really, really out of hand with this one. Even though the A's are still chasing them, they're having a big issue with that team.
Absolutely, they are, man. And the Astros find themselves. What's funny is that anytime a team stinks up the joint against the Orioles and they lose like 3 in a row or something, they come back with a vengeance and get on a tear. That happened to the Red Sox earlier in the year, and that's what's happening to the Astros right now. They've won 5 in a row since their bad showing against the Orioles. They're back on track. They're pitching well. They're hitting lights out. They have maybe one of the best offenses in the American League. A's are doing well. They're still plugging away at .563 winning percentage. They're in second in the division. When you're going up head-to-head against the winner of that, the leader of that division, and you are the reigning American League West champions, it's going to be a dogfight. I think this game ultimately comes down to who is going to deliver a better pitching performance between Sean Manaea and Luis Garcia. And statistically speaking, they're almost identical, man. They're both 6-5 win record. One has a 3.13 ERA. One has a 3.14 ERA. This to me is a no-touch ball game, Pop.
Well, I think with losing your last 7 out of 10 games and the way that you've been dominated by the Astros this year, you can go ahead and take that money line today. I got the minus 155 on that parlay today as well, too. And I think that the Astros can be some good money for you today because they just are dominating the A's in this situation. But, Mike, you do bring up a good point. It is a watch game in a sense as well, too. And you know that you don't make it a big risk because this game can go either way. And the line's saying that the game can go either way as well, too. So,
yeah, I mean, I couldn't fault you if you took plus 1.5 on the A's. And I couldn't fault you if you took the Astros. I mean, it's, you know, and I know what you said about them having their way. But how many times have you seen it where the Dodgers look like they're annihilating the Giants and take 3 from them in San Francisco, and then the Giants come back over here and kind of flip the roles on them? In baseball, you kind of see that happen a lot with good teams. So, so far, advantage Astros. We'll see what the next round delivers for the A's.
Well, the Dodgers, you know, I know 2 teams that ain't flipping the roles on the Dodgers this year. The Rockies and the Diamondbacks.
No, there's no flipping there, man.
Yeah, that's playing against that's JV ball right there between those 2 teams. All right, let's go ahead and talk about a pretty important matchup tonight. The Cardinals and the Giants. The Cardinals coming in 3rd day in a row as a nice doggy dog, and then the Giants are a minus 200 today. The Cardinals have already pretty much sealed the series with winning the first 2 games, and the Cardinals are actually still below 500, 43 and 44 on the season, 8.5 games out of first place. This is crazy. Cincinnati's ahead of them right now. So pretty much, but it does look like, honestly, the Brewers are about to run away with the Central, to be honest with you, because the way that they just been whooping on the Cubs. But let me stay on subject. You have the best record in baseball, pretty much a deadlock between the Dodgers and the Giants. The Giants only a half a game better than the Dodgers at this point as well, too. And honestly, the Giants have to step it up because they have lost their last 6 out of 10 games as well, and they do not want to get swept by the Cardinals as well. So when I look at the situation, when I look at this series, I say to myself that, you know, pretty much this game should be a very good one for the Giants, but I still going to take the insurance today with the Cardinals because they know that they got to start winning right now so they can at least stay in the playoff race. What are your thoughts on this game, Mike?
I think the Giants have answered every single call. Every time that they've been asked the question, they've delivered. I think this is going to be no exception here. The team has won twice as many games at home as lost. 26 home wins versus 13 home losses. So for them to lose 2 in a row, it's kind of a big deal. Props to the Cardinals for doing that. They've been decimated. Their pitching staff has completely been decimated by injury. So now they have a reliever converted into a starter, and Johan Oviedo on the hill. Alex Wood, he's done really well for the Giants so far. Winner out of 7 out of his 10 decisions have come with a W next to his name. And I think tonight they're going to stop the bleeding. I'm going to take the Giants at home.
And there it is. All right, we move on to our next spot. And this is funny because we sat here and talked about the Yankees for 15 minutes, and then I'm talking about the Yankee game right now, too. Yankees at the Mariners last night. Yankees bounced back nice, too, last night, won 13-3. Mariners probably didn't see that one coming. But tonight, though, the hottest pitcher in the Mariners rotation is pitching tonight. So this ain't going to be no easy out for the Yankees tonight, Mike. And then you got Domingo pitching tonight for the Yankees. He's been a so-so starter this year, but I'm very confident in the guy that the Mariners have at Kikuchi, the Japanese pitcher, and I think that he will be good tonight. But all in all, though, you have to be ready because we saw what the Yankees did to Ohtani last week as well, too. So they might be able to pick up on these pitchers a little bit differently since they have so much experience having those pitchers as well, too. So I think that tonight's game will wind up being a pitcher's duel. I like the under the most in this game tonight. What are your thoughts on this one, Mike?
Yeah, Kikuchi is the real deal, man.
Right.
This guy is good. He's going to be good in the majors for a while because, you know, he got well seasoned in Japan, but he's only 30 years old. So I think they have themselves a really, really good, crafty left-hander. He's been on the team for a couple of years, by the way. And each year he got better and better in the major leagues. So had to make an adjustment probably to American life and to the batters in the American League. And looks like he's made all the necessary adjustments to have some success here. He's, kind of walks a lot of guys, so he probably needs to keep his walk level, get that in check a little bit. 3.0 strikeouts to walk ratio. So not the worst in the world, but I'd like to see that being a little bit wider of a gap. And I think Domingo Germán is just not to be trusted, Pop. I like the Mariners here. I think that the Mariners come back and win. They're 4 games above 500. The Mariners have a better record than the New York Yankees. So let's forget that the team in pinstripes is coming into town and just look at the two teams' rosters, how they're playing. And I'm going to take the Seattle Mariners.
And there it is. He likes the Mariners tonight. I like the under. Let's see how it shakes out. All right, we have a pretty good one here. Nats are actually starting to kind of heat up a little bit, but they ran into some bumps in the road because Schwarber, as usual, is going to be out for a bit of time. And then Trey Turner, I think, is hurt as well, too. So pretty much the Nats got to take 2 steps back, but try to feel. But they're starting to kind of heat up like they did back when they won the World Series and started to show that, hey, we here and we're going to be here. You know what I mean? But I think at the end of the day, the Mets, that's the Mets division to lose at the end of the day. But I think that the Nats are going to make a giant push here in the summer to get, to make it a little bit some theater in the very weak NL East. So when I look at this game tonight, I see the Padres coming in here as a heavy favorite as usual. The Nats plus 150 tonight. That's good value for value bettors in my opinion. But I think that the Padres are going to be a bit too much. I never trust Pat Corbin as well. He was on the Diamondbacks as one of their stud pitchers, but he never really panned out. And he's decent with the Nationals because he gets run support. But I think that the Padres with with a guy like Paddock, who was seen as their pitcher of the future and all that good stuff, he should have a really good game at home tonight against this Nats team. And I like the Padres tonight with the spread with the -1.5 on the run line. What are your thoughts on this game, Mike?
My thoughts are exactly the same as your thoughts. 100% agree. Everything that you said is perfectly well stated. I can't really add to that. I think you hit the key. You hit the nail on the head, which is they're -2 of their best hitters, their table setter and their hottest home run hitter in Trey Turner and Schwarber, respectively. So, yeah, I think this is going to be too lofty of a challenge. Corbin, like you said, he's never been on track since he got to DC, and I think the Padres are just going to be a little bit too much to handle at home for the Nats. It'll be interesting to see, though, around the All-Star break, right after the All-Star break, and as they head to the trade deadline, do they collapse because they're missing those 2 players? And if they do, any chance that they would trade Max Scherzer because they could get max value out of the guy right now? I mean, we've seen it over the last how many years, really starting with like Roger Clemens, keep on coming back and taking whatever team he's on to the World Series, whether it was the Yankees or the Astros. We've seen more recently Verlander. We've seen Greinke. We've seen a lot of these aging pitchers. Could you imagine bringing in Scherzer to Dodgerland or to Fenway or to San Francisco
or to Citi Field? Think about that.
Or to Citi Field. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I think they may look at it one of 2 ways, which is even if we're not going to be able to make a run for this year, we still have a young enough team that we can make a run for the next X many years in a row, which is true, right? With Soto and Robles and Schwarber and Trey Turner, they've got a really, really good young core that's going to be together for a long time to come, hopefully. But with that said, you can get a lot for Scherzer right now. And if it ain't going to happen this year, he's going to be 38 next year. I don't know, Pop. I'm just saying, if I'm the Nats, I'd seriously consider moving the guy.
Well, he's not as effective as he was in the past. You know, him and Kershaw used to be automatic wins. You know what I mean? But you're gonna have your doubts with these guys nowadays because they're, like, as you just said, Mike, they're getting a lot older, longer in the tooth and everything like that. So it's different because a lot of people have seen the movie before with you, and they ain't gonna play along no more. So pretty much,
but you know, I would have no problem on any given day giving the ball to Clayton or to Max. I think these guys are crafty enough, and I know Clayton Kershaw hasn't had the best postseason career, let's just say. But with that said, I would still have no reservations about naming them the number one pitcher going into a playoff series. Yeah, I think these guys are just too good, and their stuff is still good, and they're crafty as can be at this stage of their career, man. So I don't know, man. Yeah, he's getting older. All these guys are, but I would trust them in the playoffs.
And just one last point, though, about the Kershaw playoff situation. I always feel like Dodger fans have scapegoat him to not really address the real elephant in the room when those losses happened to Kershaw. They didn't get any runs. They didn't get any hits. Kershaw is literally out there on the island by himself. You know what I mean? Like, only time I would say that he really blew there's only like 3 games I felt like he really blew because they had a big lead in the game and things just didn't go right. But those other games that the Dodgers lost, losing 3-0 and things like that, that wasn't all on Kershaw. You know what I mean? Where was the hitting at? Where was the runs at? That's my question as well, too. So it's an overall stink. You know what I mean, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent, but keep in mind, he's being measured against the extremely high standard that he set. Right. So when you got a guy who's in the regular season got an ERA of like 2.3 or something, and then by inning 4, he's already given up 3 runs. Yeah, the Dodgers maybe got 1 or 0. They didn't give him the run support, but he didn't pitch like how we saw him in the regular season. And I think that's kind of what people are looking at, and less so. I mean, it's like the guy set such a high standard, Pop. He has to almost pitch a shutout. You know, he almost has to pitch a shutout every outing in the postseason in order to meet their expectations. You know what I mean?
We got to be a star at all times. Yeah, I know.
That's how good he's been, though, in the regular season.
You got to be a star at all times for everybody to be fully satisfied.
Yes.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into this pick 6. And I know we both got some busy afternoons, so let's go ahead and get into this real quick. We got the over 10.5 with the Blue Jays and the Orioles for me today. We got the Cubs plus 125. I know I'm being risky today, but we'll see how it shakes out. Astros minus 155. And we got the Cardinals plus 1.5. And then we also have the Yankees today under 8, Yanks and Mariners. And then we also ended off with the minus 1.5 to the Padres. So, Mike, what you thinking with this one? 45-1.
Hey, man, like I've always said, I never turn away a 45-1 shot. I think the only one that would kind of concern me, we already talked about it, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, is that Cubs game. I just hate needing a team when they've lost 11 in a row.
Right.
Very hard for me to rely on that. I wouldn't discourage anybody from playing this because it's 45-1, but I will make a suggestion. Maybe do the exact, after you punch that ticket, do one more parlay where you take out the Cubs and you put in the Phillies on the run line.
Can get more value.
Get more, either way, you either get, or just on the win.
Right. But
create that 45-1 either way.
I think the run line is perfect in a sense if you're going to take the Phillies because the Cubs been getting beat by multiple runs.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, they've been getting beat by multiple runs, and they have one of their weaker pitchers in the rotation on the mound today. It's just that I feel like everybody's going to be running to the window for the Phillies today, and that's why I'm taking the Cubs.
Makes sense. I like your contrarian thinking.
Yes, sir. So pretty much, man, you guys already know where to bet this stuff at. You guys go to YouWager, use my promo code VSXPOP. You guys will get up a 50% match deposit. So if you throw up 400, you get back 200 in a free play, and then you can go ahead and start your sports betting journey on YouWager, where the world bets at. All right. So with that, this is going to be our show for today. It's always beautiful when I have my man here, Mike Abadir, to go ahead and talk with me on the sports life and everything like that. And then you guys already know tomorrow Mike has his show going off at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. His radio show, him and Gino Picola, always rocking out, always having great guests as well too. So you guys make sure to tune into his show. I might be popping up on that bad boy as well.
I was just gonna say you're quickly becoming into the guest Hall of Fame mark. Guest
Right.
Hall of Fame. Usually, it's kind of like you have to be retired for 7 years in baseball to get to the Hall of Fame. Is that what it is?
Right.
70. Usually, it's you have to have appeared on the show for 3 years running to get into the Hall of Fame. But I think the writers are about to waive that because how big time you bring it, Pop. So you're a Hall of Famer in my book, my man.
Thank you, sir. That I truly do appreciate that, man. And I can't wait until my next time on the show because you always have great topics to discuss as well, too. So I look forward to that. And I know it's going to be a good weekend over at Los Alamitos as they close out and we head over to Del Mar where the surf meets the turf. So pretty much you guys make sure to tune into his show tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow at noon tomorrow to go over the NBA Finals and to go over some more baseball and things like that, and to talk some football with the Buffalo Bills tomorrow as well, too, on my preview. So pretty much you guys stay tuned. As I always say, bet with your head and not with your heart. And pretty much you guys, if you got a hunch, bet a bunch. The movement is moving, and this is the premier sports betting show with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper, and the sports agent aficionado himself, Mike Abadir, and we are gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.